try to make everybody happy, I guess, basically. I think that as the plan stands there, again, I haven't met with the homeowners to go over that plan, but I'm comfortable with it. But I don't think it'll change much from what's there right now.
You know, this appears to be the front line of the house. This appears to be in front of the front line.
It is by about 2 feet right now.
Oh, this is it. Okay. All right.
There's an existing house shown on that plan, and there's the proposed house.
Okay. I'll close the hearing if the commissioners don't have any more.
Just one comment from me. I think since the plan is a draft, I think it'd be wise to word it such that the front of the garage is aligned with the front of the house. Therefore, if the front of the house changes, the front of the garage is not sticking out.
Well, I think we word it in such a way that the location of the garage is going to be dependent on the front line of the house. So if we say 3 feet, then, and the house moves, or the front of the house moves, then the garage is going to have to move with it. Okay? I'll close the public hearing. I've suggested a compromise, and with the front of the garage being 3 feet behind the front wall of the house.
In the application for the draft special structures permit, on line 3, it said permit to allow detached garage with reduced front yard setback 3 feet behind the front line of the
But I think that we need to also, if they move the whole thing back, then it just messes up the neighbors. So I think we should have a condition that, provided that it, the exact language, but lines up with the garage of the neighbor, or is not more than X number of feet behind, so that if they move the whole structure back 10 feet, you defeat the whole purpose. Or if they move it up 10 feet, you also defeat the whole purpose, because if they moved it up 10 feet, then you probably want a setback.
Yeah. Well, why can't we just have a motion that would say that the front line of the house would have to remain as present position?
That's the question. Which drawing are we going to use? The one that is referenced in the Stafford in the permit says, with the plan prepared by David Crouch and dated August 12th. And that's not the date on this set of plans. The date is August 18th. So what are we using? A little 8.5 by 11 sheet or these?
And I don't know, which one are you approving as the neighbor?
No, the neighbor's not approving anything.
No, the neighbor, well, I think he is. I think the neighbor
Recommending.
He's recommending, he says the garage.
But these are draft plans, so I'm not sure that you can refer to the draft plans. I would rather have it as you can for example, you can be up to 3 feet behind the front wall of the house, wherever that is, provided that, you know, whatever that lines up or is no more than offset by X number of feet with the garage, so that you control the two variables, and then you're not saying you have to have your front line, your front wall there, and you got to design a house based on it.
Yeah, I think we agree in theory. So why don't you make a motion then to that effect?
Because I don't make
He doesn't make motion.
No, you can. That's fine.
If you would.
I'll make a motion.
Sure.
Well, first off, I mean, are people generally in agreement with that? Because
yeah,
otherwise, we may as well keep
sure.
discussing it before we.
Sure.
Okay. So.
Did you say?
No, I am in agreement with you, but I'm going to abstain because I wasn't here for the public hearing. But I am in agreement with you.
Okay.
Usually have a motion.
You want to see, well, I guess with that score.
So I move that the planning commission approve a special structure permit at 96 Howard Way based on the findings and for the reasons enumerated in the staff report and as indicated by the commissioners in their meeting, subject to the conditions in this special structures permit to allow a detached garage to be located in the front setback for the main residence. And in the conditions, it would be that the garage may be located up to, or at least 3 feet behind the front line of the house, provided that the structure aligns in general with the neighbor's garage.
We're also adding to condition 3, the maintenance requirement for the landscaping, and
Yes.
condition 4, referencing the construction shall apply with the town's lengthy construction ordinance, and I'll specify the municipal code section, I just don't have it with me.
I so move.
You want to reference which data, which plan we're using?
I don't think we need, I don't think we can.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, it does have.
Yeah, so we'd have to take out the reference to the plan because it's not gonna provide the support that we need.
The final plan will be reviewed by staff, is that correct?
Yes.
All right, so provided the staff approves the final plan or agrees with the final plan?
Agrees with that, it conforms to the motion.
Right.
Motion's generally accepted. Okay, may we have a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All
Abstain.
those-
Abstain?
You have 4, 0, 1 absent.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Oh, you have, thank you. You have 10 days to appeal to the council, thank you. Okay, we will move on to item number 8, the special structure permit.
We'd like to continue this item to the December 5th Planning Commission meeting, and we would appreciate a motion and a second to do so.
Is there any reason for the postponement?
There's a heritage tree in the way of the project, so they're looking at options or possible requests to remove the tree. So we need to get some more information on that.
Okay, we have a motion.
I make a motion to continue item number 8 to the December 5th Planning Commission meeting.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. 5-0. Okay, we'll move to number 9, which is possible changes to the side yard setback requirements. I'd just like to say a few words since I'm the one that's responsible for this item being on the agenda. I think it's incumbent on the planning commission to periodically review sections of the code and see if they're doing what was
Just a
intended.
technical, but it's an important.
I asked the side setback ordinance to be looked at and reviewed in a further meeting than this that we would set. And the reasons for that are as given to you in the little sheet that I prepared. I think that the one, and there may be other reasons for looking at it with the idea of either amending the ordinance or leaving it the same way. But I think at this point, when we look at the setbacks and what they constitute, it's as if this one letter writer pointed out that on 100 feet, you only can have a width of 40 feet, and you have 60 feet of setbacks. They vary all over the place, and I think that it is not quite just or not fair, as the letter writer said, who went through it. And I was thinking that, and I don't have an answer, but I would think that no more than 50% of the lot line should be devoted to the side setbacks, which would allow a house to utilize at least 50% of the frontage. This would mean some sort of change to setbacks set up in the front. I mean, in beyond 50 feet goes through, and you can see based on what I've given here. The second thing that bothered me is in looking at the format that we've used for side setbacks is that you can have a slightly larger lot and actually lose 1.5 feet in the width of your house. In other words, by the way this is set, and I give an example in my little memo that, for instance, on a 99.5 foot wide lot can have a maximum house width of 39.5 feet, but a 99 foot wide lot, which is half a foot less, can have a maximum width of 41 feet. And I think if we could look at some other format of creating a sliding scale, it might be fair or just. So I have requested that this be placed on the agenda, and I will start out by asking the staff if they would make any comments.
At this point, we didn't do a lot of review or analysis because we wanted to get some direction from the Planning Commission if it's something you would like to further study, and that's why it's on the agenda this evening. We did do a real quick survey of a couple other jurisdictions that's before you. You may want some more time to review it, and we can further analyze that. I just want to remind you that these side yard setbacks do apply town-wide, so they don't distinguish by district, but it's for the entire town of Atherton. And also we've received a number of emails expressing concern with any changes. Those are before you. Some of them we emailed out yesterday, others we received today. We've given you copies tonight.
Thank you. Well, I'd like to propose that we set this for an agenda item to consider amendments to the side setback ordinance.
So I have a procedural question. So this is not a formal public hearing, so what's the procedure on this? Because obviously, unlike most of the items that come before us, there seem to be lots of people interested in it. And I would recommend that at the least we ask the public if they have anything to say about it before, as it, it's not a formal public hearing, but I would suggest that we follow the same format to get the views of the public.
I have no personal objection to that. Does any commissioner?
I believe if the folks are here, they ought to have a chance to
Sure.
tell us why they're here.
Sure. Good. Sure.
Right?
Well, in that case, do we have, I'll open a public hearing on this issue and ask anybody that wishes to talk on the subject of the Planning Commission reviewing the ordinances regarding side setbacks. Anybody here who want to talk?
So procedurally, these guys seem to be talking about something, so let's clarify.
We're trying to clarify the issue that's before us so the conversation proceeds appropriately and that it's been adequately agendized. my understanding is that we're discussing whether or not you would like to do further study and have an agenda item on the next meeting perhaps, where people can give their opinions as to whether or not changes should be made. So it's
That's
very
correct.
preliminary.
That's correct. This is a preliminary.
Should this be something that the planning commission considers?
Would like to
Or
consider,
would they like to leave sleeping dogs lie?
exactly, correct.
Okay.
Hi, my name is MJ Davy, and I reside at 38 Maple Avenue. I would vote for the Let Sleeping Dogs Lie. I think that our current setbacks, and just looking through the grid, seems appropriate. It seems that the process, if somebody has an issue with a variance, is to come before you, and that process has worked historically well. And I think we all bought into our homes in Atherton based on the current setbacks being what they are, and to make a change to them is going to affect all of our property values. I live on Maple Avenue, and we live on, the smaller lots, and I don't want a neighbor closer to me than they are right now, and unfortunately I had one variance approved and don't want more coming at me from all directions. Again, we bought our homes based on the conditions of space between them, and it's not fair to change them now. I think in order to preserve the charm of Atherton, we keep the space that we have. And to compare us to Hillsborough, Woodside, and Portola Valley, I just don't think we're comparing apples to apples. And I don't see an overwhelming need to even discuss it further. There's nobody asking for this, and it just seems to be something that's been brought up that the public does not like to move forward with.
Okay, thank you. Do you have any questions? Is there anyone else that would like to speak on whether the planning commission should review side setbacks?
Hello, Denise Kupperman, 74 Atherton Avenue. It's really just a procedural issue and something I'd just like to understand. My understanding is that zoning changes and exploration into a zoning change would require first the direction of the city council to ask the planning commission to look at this and to put it on their agenda. So I'm just a little curious as to how this has come up, and I just really want to understand, really just from a procedural perspective. Thank you.
I can respond if you'd like.
Thank you.
Amendments to the zoning code can be initiated by an interested party, so a member of the public can request a change in the zoning code. Staff can initiate it, the planning commission can initiate it by resolution, or the city council can direct the planning commission to look at an item. So if so desired, we would need a resolution at a later date.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Hi, my name is Lauren Gruner, and I live at 163 Fair Oaks Lane. And I just was going to comment, having lived in both R1A and R1B, I think I have a pretty good understanding, and also of having built a home or renovated a home, I kind of understand a lot about the building codes, and also sitting through all the planning commission meetings and changes that we made to the code recently. I really think in R1B that I don't think it should go past that 10 feet. I think that 10 feet really does give a cushion between the homes, and I think that, although I think that the ability to kind of put a chimney into the setback and so on, I totally agree with that. I think that in general, moving homes closer than that kind of having that 20 feet distance between the houses, I don't think that's necessarily a great idea. If you are going to look at the setbacks, I'll say our other property that we have a very long, narrow property. And when we went to go and build our home, it was a very big challenge because we have a huge oak tree in front and a huge oak tree behind. And our side setbacks are, our property is, probably 5 or 6 times as long as it is wide. And so we had no ability we have an 1.25 acres, and we could add, 11 or 1,000 square feet to our home because of the side setbacks being so tight, and the fact we were trying to protect and hold on to the heritage trees. So those kinds of, issues, if they're coming before the planning commission and there's some willingness to look at the side setbacks, I think that's huge. But again, I'm very, very far away from my neighbors and that property, but it was extremely hard to come up with a plan that gave us any flexibility at all. And unfortunately, you know, we had to make a lot of compromises, and I just hope those trees don't fall because they will destroy our home if they do. So, thanks very much.
Any questions? Is there anybody else that would like to speak on this subject?
Good evening. James Jans, 95 Wilburn Avenue. 2-term city council member, 10 years on the ATHERTON Planning Commission, 33 years as a land use and real estate attorney. Did I get my address? 95 Wilburn, all right. You're certainly welcome to look into this and take testimony and hear people's opinions on what they see as the problems and what does perhaps need to be changed and could be considered. But I'm going to add one more for you. I live on Wilburn, and every house on Wilburn Avenue on the north side of the street backs up against the county line, backs up against that incorporated area. And we're not the only street in Atherton that backs up against a different jurisdiction. The interesting thing is that people on the other side of my back fence can apparently build up to 2 feet from the property line because that's where some of the buildings are. But I can only build up to 10 feet. Lisa, Mrs. Councilor Sanders, is familiar with my request. I've suggested that they look at it before, and I would suggest that you do it again and consider the possibility of maybe reducing the setbacks, at least in the back, for situations where an Atherton property backs up against a different jurisdiction that has a much reduced setback, so that there's some even-handedness. The people on the other side of the fence get to enjoy living next to Atherton, but with the large setbacks that we have living in Atherton, I don't get to enjoy it from them. Thank you.
Any questions?
Well, actually, I do have one more comment. I heard a nasty rumor that the reason this even came up is because someone remodeled or built a house that encroached into a side yard setback and just totally flouted the law in doing so. I certainly hope that it's not the case, but if that is the case, I hope that the city brings down the full force of the law on that situation and make sure that that property owner complies. There's no sense in, if you're going to let people violate the law once, then you've lost the whole ball game. So, thank you.
Let me make a comment though on this. If the and Jim, since you've been involved with the city so long, I'm not sure that enforcing this is up to the enforcing current regulations is really up to the Planning Commission. I think there should be in place through the council action some sort of procedure if somebody does what this person did, and that's break the law. Our job, if I understood him correctly, is whether we would grant a variance or not. And the history of the particular case is while important, it's not up to the Planning Commission to act as a punishment organization.
Well, I'm conveying my message to the city. So,
yeah.
Through the Planning Commission.
Okay. Sure. Well, if the city fathers should not expect the Planning Commission to carry out and enforce the ordinances. That's something that they should have in place, and staff should be instructed by them to,
Well, they have the tools they need to do it.
They have the tools.
Right.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
One follow-up to that is, that sets a precedent though, that asks for forgiveness rather than permission. Why don't I just go ahead and build it, and the council will approve it because that's what they do, and there's no consequences.
Well, that's up to the council. If they wish, I mean, my personal feeling is, would we grant a variance of up to 3 feet on present code? And I don't want to get into an argument with you, but it isn't up to the Planning Commission to decide what punishment should be given them. There should be, within the city, if somebody does that, there should be a set thing. And other cities have, you pay so many times the current fee, or, you know, have regular situations for this.
I guess it just sounds like the right hand's not talking to the left hand. We're a small town, and the fact that this group's not talking to that group and consequences aren't being laid out, it just doesn't make us look very crisp in town.
Yeah, so I'm waiting for us to either continue the public hearing or close it so we can have discussion on the topics that are being talked about here. So is there?
Well, is there anybody else that wants to speak on the topic?
My name is Rosemary Malbutch, and I live at 90 Lloyden Drive. And I'd just like to say that as a resident of Lloyden Park for 36 years, way back when we bought our property, it was partly because we like space around us. We like park-like environment with lots of trees, and there's privacy as well. I think many people in Lloyden Park, which is full of small lots by Atherton standards, enjoy still on those small lots some space between our neighbors, and we get along with our neighbors fine, but we also enjoy the privacy and all the trees that are allowed to be there, because we don't look at every one of these things. Almost every time they ask for an exception, there often are trees involved that have to come down, or they're debating whether or not they can. I would urge you not to decrease setbacks at least on small lots, because large houses, and that's what they're getting to be, they've gone from 1-story to 2-story on small lots, does not enhance the neighborhood or, I think, the town. And we try not to be an urban-like town. And I don't think we want to live in the toads, as they're called them, the transportation-oriented developments, which Lloyden Park was in the 40s, only we had train service then. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to talk? The issue is whether, again, the Planning Commission at a future meeting should review the side setback ordinance and make suggestions, amendments as necessary, or leave it alone. So
We're closing that public hearing.
So if there's no other people who wish to speak, we'll close the public hearing and decide among ourselves. Okay, Eric, do you want to start out with our discussion?
Okay. The inclination I have overall is to not address this unless we have a specific case, to talk about it in a general. I mean, we might have a specific case we could lead to an overall review. But some of the things that I'm looking at is that I would agree that the idea of the small lots having more requests, or potentially more requests for an exception, would be something that we would anticipate, but it wouldn't be something that I would sort of open the gates to allow. So if a certain neighborhood has more difficulty with fitting in a redesign or something, then I'd expect, that we might see some more exceptions, and we have to evaluate the exceptions. But to move to the point of saying that we would be looking forward to the notion that it would be okay for that to be the norm, I don't think we want to start going down there. I know I live in one of those areas also that's right up against another unincorporated area. Only I have the front yard and it's the street, so I don't have backyards. But I do play trumpet, and I know my neighbors appreciate the setbacks, both for side and back. So I think that I don't see a specific reason to address this, and I wouldn't normally think that going less than 10 feet in an environment like we have would be helpful to the neighborhood anyway. So you have a couple points that I think are interesting in terms of a half-foot difference makes a big difference in terms of the footprint, and again, without a specific, cry out of a neighborhood or a group of neighbors, I don't see a reason to take action personally. I think the thoughtfulness that you've approached this with, which is, are we doing the right thing and does it make sense, is appropriate. But I think that in approaching it at all, we might have unintended consequences that we really don't want to have for the city.
Okay, thank you. Mary Beth?
If we were going to be looking at the side yard setbacks, I would suggest we also look at the back setbacks, because the back is basically set at 10 across Atherton. And
Accessory building.
yeah, and I'm not, I think that we ought to consider that increasing that number actually, but, so I'd like to see us look at everything if we're gonna look at anything. However, I feel that it's going to be difficult to, come up with an equitable change.
So, I sort of start out by saying that sort of no one's asking for this. We've had discussions at previous meetings that we should have multiple residents sort of come to us before we want to, open up city resources and sort of open up these questions. And, I'm not aware that this has really been brought up to us. And in fact, we generally have trouble getting anyone to show up at our meetings to make a public statement. And here we have, I counted 17 emails saying, don't open up the hornet's nest. I think that we should follow that and not open it up. We have enough division in this town between fighting over the library and fighting over Parker Avenue and other things. I think we need to let sleeping dogs lie. People have built based on the current setbacks, and if there's not an uprising over it, then I think we should leave them alone. I think that it's true that nothing is perfect, but I don't think the search for the perfect should sort of destroy the good enough. And so I feel very strongly that we should leave it alone.
No?
We talked about what happens to a neighborhood. Parker Avenue is a good one. There were some 40 homes up there that had larger front setbacks than perhaps people wanted. After a great deal of discussion, it was decided to reduce the front yard setback to allow people to build in the front yard and put a garage or something in the front. That was done almost 2 years ago now, and I happened to be down Parker not too long ago. Not one of them has taken advantage of that. So perhaps that change wasn't needed after all. But that was a neighborhood that asked for it, and reluctantly we responded to it. My view of the setbacks is that if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So I would say leave it alone.
Well, of course, my view is the planning commission should be more proactive rather than just listen to permits. I've already expressed myself. I think there are some flaws in this, in the present ordinance. And again, I'm not talking about reducing 10 feet or anything like that. The only main point I would be thinking about would be first to see if there's another way of getting a sliding scale setback so that a lesser lot doesn't have a bigger, a lesser lot have bigger side setbacks and allow than a lot half a foot or longer. In other words, that it's a sliding scale that we use in this thing. The second point I thought would be to go more than 50%, as Mrs. Griffiths talks about in side setbacks is really not fair. And so that if you do have a 100-foot lot, to require 60 feet, where on a 50-foot lot, you require a total of 20 feet. Doesn't seem equitable to me. So I would, it does seem to me appropriate the Planning Commission step into this quagmire, if you want to call it that, and with will to cure some of the deficiencies of the present setback ordinance, that we can make it a better ordinance. And the fears that have been expressed tonight are changes that I certainly would not contemplate. But I would think would be make it a fairer ordinance so somebody doesn't have to get in. But that's my personal opinion, and that's why I brought it before you. I would entertain a motion in regard to this thing as to we not handle it, or we do set it up for a public hearing a month from now.
I just thought, so does it require a motion if we don't do anything? It
No,
doesn't, right?
probably doesn't.
Right, right, so we would only need a motion if we were to put it, add to another.
That's correct.
Right.
All right. Fair enough. I guess I would make a motion and that the side setback ordinance be reviewed at a public meeting a month from now. Is there any second to that? If not, it dies.